Kobe Bryant. On January 26, 2020, 41-year-old Kobe Bryant died when his helicopter crashed into a hillside in Calabasas, California, en route to a youth basketball game. He was carrying his 13-year-old daughter Gianna and 7 others, including her teammates and their families. Flying in heavy fog, the pilot lost spatial orientation while trying to climb above the cloud layer, and the helicopter struck the hillside at nearly 200 miles per hour. Kobe was a 5-time NBA champion and 18-time All-Star who'd built a whole second career after retirement, even winning an Oscar for an animated short. The Lakers retired both his jersey numbers, and the NBA renamed its All-Star MVP trophy after him. Roberto Clemente. On December 31, 1972, 38-year-old Roberto Clemente died when the cargo plane he was traveling in crashed into the Atlantic off Puerto Rico. A 12-time All-Star and the first Latin American Hall of Famer, Clemente was flying humanitarian aid to earthquake victims in Nicaragua, personally accompanying the shipment after hearing earlier aid had been stolen by soldiers. The overloaded, poorly maintained plane lost an engine after takeoff, then a second, and went down about a mile offshore. His body was never recovered. The Hall of Fame waived its waiting period to induct him immediately, and MLB's Humanitarian Service Award now bears his name. Ayrton Senna. On May 1, 1994, 3-time F1 champion Ayrton Senna died when his Williams struck a wall at Imola's Tamburello corner at 135 miles per hour. A fellow driver had been killed in qualifying 2 days earlier, and Senna had spent that morning pushing for safety reforms, carrying a flag to honor him. His steering column failed on lap 7, sending him into the wall. A suspension piece pierced his helmet. He was airlifted to a hospital and declared dead that afternoon. 3 million mourners attended his funeral in Sao Paulo. F1 overhauled its safety standards afterward, and no driver died in the sport for the next 20 years. Sean Taylor. On November 27, 2007, 24-year-old Sean Taylor, a Pro Bowl safety for Washington, died a day after being shot during a home invasion. Rehabbing a knee injury at home with his girlfriend and infant daughter, he grabbed a machete to confront 4 intruders who broke in before dawn. One fired through the bedroom door, severing his femoral artery. He went into cardiac arrest the next morning despite surgery. All 4 intruders were convicted. Prosecutors said they'd targeted cash they believed Taylor kept in the house. His team played its next game with his position left empty as a tribute. Len Bias. On June 19, 1986, 22-year-old Len Bias died of cardiac arrest less than 48 hours after Boston drafted him 2nd overall. Celebrating on campus, he collapsed after using unusually pure cocaine, which his autopsy showed triggered a fatal arrhythmia. He had no known history of drug use. The political fallout was massive. Within 3 months, Congress passed the Anti-Drug Abuse Act of 1986, cementing the mandatory minimum sentencing gap between crack and powder cocaine for decades. The Celtics, fresh off a title, fell into a long decline and wouldn't win another championship for 22 years. Hank Gathers. On March 4, 1990, 23-year-old Hank Gathers, the nation's leading scorer and rebounder, collapsed and died during a tournament game at Loyola Marymount. He'd secretly reduced his heart arrhythmia medication because it slowed his play. After an alley-oop dunk, his legs gave out at half court. He collapsed twice and stopped breathing. He was pronounced dead about an hour later from hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, a genetic heart condition. His family later settled a negligence lawsuit against the university. His best friend, a right-hander, shot every remaining tournament free throw left-handed in tribute to Gathers, who'd been left-handed. Andrés Escobar. On July 2, 1994, 27-year-old Andrés Escobar, captain of Colombia's national soccer team, was shot 6 times outside a nightclub in Medellin, 10 days after an own goal helped eliminate Colombia from the World Cup. Witnesses said the shooter yelled "goal" with each round, mimicking the broadcast of the incident. The gunman, a bodyguard for drug traffickers who'd lost money betting on Colombia, was sentenced to 43 years but served 11. Escobar is still honored by his club every July 2nd, and a statue of him stands outside their stadium. Korey Stringer. On August 1, 2001, 27-year-old Korey Stringer, a Pro Bowl Vikings tackle, died of heat stroke, the first NFL player ever to die from practice heat. After struggling through a brutally hot practice, vomiting repeatedly, he was hospitalized with a body temperature of 108.8 degrees Fahrenheit and died the next morning from multi-organ failure. His death forced a total overhaul of heat safety rules in football. His widow founded an institute whose acclimatization guidelines are now standard across the NFL, NCAA, and high schools. No NFL player has died from practice heatstroke since. The Vikings retired his number, their first ever jersey retirement. Thurman Munson. On August 2, 1979, 32-year-old Yankees captain Thurman Munson died when the jet he was piloting crashed short of the runway in Ohio during a practice landing. He'd gotten his license just to fly home between games to see his family. Coming in too low and slow, the jet clipped a tree stump, slid across a road, and caught fire. His passengers escaped, but couldn't free him from the wreckage. He died from asphyxiation and burns. Investigators found he had minimal experience in that aircraft. His Yankee Stadium locker has stayed empty and preserved for 46 years since. Sergei Grinkov. On November 20, 1995, 28-year-old Sergei Grinkov, a two-time Olympic pair skating champion, died of a heart attack during practice in Lake Placid with his wife and skating partner, Ekaterina Gordieva. Mid-lift, he sank to his knees and fell forward. She thought he'd been injured until she realized he was unconscious. CPR couldn't revive him. The autopsy found undiagnosed, near total blockage in 2 coronary arteries, despite passing a full medical exam 18 months earlier. Gordieva, widowed at 24 with a young daughter, returned to skating and wrote a best-selling memoir about him. Duk Koo Kim. On November 18, 1982, 23-year-old South Korean boxer Duk Koo Kim died 5 days after being knocked out in the 14th round of a title fight against Ray Boom Boom Mancini. He collapsed at ringside into a coma. Surgeons removed a blood clot from his brain, but the damage was irreversible, and his mother ultimately consented to remove life support. Within weeks, the WBC cut championship bouts from 15 rounds to 12. The WBA followed years later, alongside mandatory medical exams and standing 8 counts. His mother and the fight's referee both later died by suicide. Marc-Vivien Foé. On June 26, 2003, 28-year-old Cameroon midfielder Marc-Vivien Foé collapsed and died on the pitch during a Confederation Cup semi-final in France, with no opponent near him. Team doctors worked on him for 45 minutes before he was declared dead at a hospital. The cause was hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, the same condition that killed Hank Gathers 13 years earlier. Cameroon won the match and dedicated their run to him. FIFA retired his national team number, and his collapse, broadcast live worldwide, helped push mandatory cardiac screening and defibrillators into professional soccer. If you enjoyed this, subscribe for more and drop suggestions for the next one in the comments.